Story 1, 100% sobriety. No nicotine, no weed, no alcohol. I feel way less anxious and so much clearer. It's still early days, but I'm proud of the progress I've made so far. Story 2, stop watching the news. Knowing that I cannot change someone but myself. Knowing that I do not need someone else's validation. Knowing that I do not need to compare myself to others. Quieting the mind regularly. Use social media sparingly. Regular workouts. Story 3, therapy, going regularly even when things are going well. Talking and being more open with friends and family about your struggles with mental health. Medicinal cannabis. This option isn't for everyone, but I've been using cannabis for 2 years now, and my anxiety is manageable. My depression has improved massively, and my PTSD episodes have stopped. Story 4. Finding small routines that bring joy and sticking to them made a huge difference for me. Whether it is a daily walk or chatting with a friend, little things add up. Story 5. I quit using needles to inject cocaine and heroin into my body several times a day. I know, it's obvious that would improve my mental health, but it was just how quickly it bounced back that truly astounded me. After a week of feeling terrible and going through withdrawals, I immediately started feeling better and better with each passing day. It's truly amazing what your mind and body are capable of simply from nudging it in the generally right direction instead of the wrong one. Story 6. Not caring about every single thing that my head thinks I should care about. Also caring more about my well-being and my mental health by meditating and doing a lot more of what I enjoy. Story 7. A bit morbid for me, but I struggled with health anxiety and still very much do. It's not death I fear as much as it is what happens next. Do I really just lose everything and no longer exist? If I die of an illness, I'm going to have to say goodbye to my family and everything I know for eternity. This shook me, and I really fell into a state of depression and nonstop stress. What really brought me out is researching about death, experiences from people who were pronounced dead. And I started to kind of weigh things out and think more into it. I accepted the worst possible case scenario and one that I know I would someday face, dying. And instead of associating it with loss and despair, I've tried associating it with a new beginning, imagining all the possibilities of what could happen afterwards. I look up at the night sky and think, maybe I'll be free to roam the universe. Maybe I'll see my family and friends when they eventually go too. Not only has this helped me get through that anxiety, but has given me a better outlook on life since it's pretty much sent home to me now that we all go someday. And to make the most of what you have. This helped me deal with the death of my loved ones. My great-grandmother died a few years back. I had actually just seen her a mere day before she passed in her sleep. I kept thinking about how creepy it was and how I obviously missed her. But what I wasn't thinking about was how she would wake up every morning feeling terrible, in pain and having to take 4 different types of medication to feel okay. Have help just moving from room to room and not being able to really do anything on her own. She couldn't cook anymore, so all of her food was processed unless I or someone else brought something for her. She wasn't dead yet, but her life was over, and she told me in low points that she was just passing the time, and now I know what she meant. Now, all I really think of is her finally being in a better place where there is no sickness, there is no pain. She can walk on her own, she can run. She might be able to do things now that she wasn't able to do for close to a decade. Story 8. Deactivating my social media accounts, and when I felt like I wanted to check what's happening online, I just made another account and added my closest friends. It gave me peace, honestly, and I would 100% recommend. Story 9. Letting myself cry my eyes out once in a while. It really does make me feel better for a longer period of time. It's like emptying the built-up feelings so you don't explode next time or something like that. Haha. Story 10. Cutting off people who were not good for me. Realizing that other people's reactions are not my problem. Cultivating self-respect. Deleting social media apps when I realize I'm spending too much time on them. Putting more effort into my sense of self and figuring out who I am. Then putting effort into accepting myself for who I am. Story 11. Become your own best friend and treat yourself like you would treat a best friend. You would never put down a best friend. You would never let a best friend down. So do that for yourself. Story 12. 1. Aerobic exercise. 2. A hobby unrelated to career or academia. 3. Nature and fresh air. 4. Meditation. 5. Solid social support system. 6. Actually trying to accomplish my goals. Story 13. In no particular order. 1. Going for walks. Eating proper and good food, which is easier said than done. Getting a good night's sleep. Keeping a tidy environment at both the office and at home. Avoiding or not engaging with unpleasant people. My next goal is to quit smoking. Story 14. A good friend who understands really helps. Also, doing something you love like a hobby really helps distract the mind. Cleaning also really helps me personally. Anything that helps keep the mind busy and people who understand and make you happy really make a huge difference. Story 15. Delete Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. Exercise regularly. Maintain a regular sleep schedule. Eat healthily. Don't drink to the point that you make bad decisions. It's not rocket science. Be better to yourself, and your brain thanks you by not working against itself. Story 16. Changing jobs and working for myself more has allowed me to cut out toxic people and gain self-fulfillment. I hear older individuals always ask each other, keeping busy? It seems being accomplished significantly improves your self-confidence. Story 17. Definitely going sober. That first month after 2 decades of always having a drink every night was eye-opening. The immediate world around me became absolutely more positive. Story 18. Quitting drugs and alcohol for sure was the primary thing I had to stop. After that, I was able to address my traumas, focus on a good diet, and exercise. I worked with a therapist who taught me about love styles, abandonment issues, and attachment styles. Then I was able to have healthy relationships with friends, family, and romantic partners. I got dogs who taught me to love and focus on something besides myself. Most importantly, sticking with a therapist and my medications. Story 19. Exercise, regular walks, less social media, fewer nights out, more nights in, less television, more books, more podcasts, less junk food, more vitamins, less alcohol, more water, and fewer toxic people. Anything that makes you feel bad, tired, lazy, or depressed should be done less or not at all, and it feels so much better. Story 20. When I first heard the words gratitude journal, I thought it was the cheesiest thing I've ever heard, but I said forget it. I'll try it. I've been writing in my gratitude journal every day for over a year. It really does make you appreciate what you have and the people around you. Story 21. Simply not having anything to do with the toxic friends who were sabotaging my life reached a point where I just ignored any message or call. I didn't have the energy to even be polite anymore. Story 22. They don't pay me for posting this, but this app saved me from a really hard time. I started using the Headspace app. It shows you a really peaceful way of meditation. I used to have anxiety attacks twice a day. The app helped me to reduce stress and anxiety whenever I was having a really bad day. I found a lot of people started there. I paid for the whole year, and it helped me to feel better about myself. A year later, I downloaded a similar app called Finch, and now I'm taking care of my physical health too. Hope this helps. Story 23. TLDR. The pandemic helped me restabilize my career. The pandemic was a turning point for me. I was 1 year into my career as a tax collector when some cracks began to show. Rarely did I find myself unsure of what to do with my files. It was more about lacking the heart to proceed with them. Despite my reservations, a few weeks before the pandemic, I had purchased my first house and committed to a mortgage. After moving in, the reality of my long-term prospects in this job began to sink in. I questioned whether I could continue in this role for another 30 or so years, or if my contract would even be renewed. I remember spending an entire week just staring at my files in defeat. When I went home that Friday, I knew I had a lot of catching up to do and was dreading Monday. Then, on Sunday night, I received a knock on my door. It was my supervisor, who informed me that we were shutting everything down and I was to stay at home. I ended up staying at home with full pay for about 4 months before we were fully set up to work from home. This period allowed me to decompress and enjoy my new home. I did have to work a few stressful stints in the call center to keep my job, but I never really had to do collections again. By the time we resumed collection actions, I managed to transfer to a much less stressful department with equal pay. Furthermore, I was given a tenured position in my new role, ensuring my stay. Story 24. Currently, what I've been doing that I think is helping includes therapy, trying to be out in nature more and away from electronics other than my synthesizer hardware, socializing more, mindfulness, which kind of ties into being in nature more, journaling, doing less cannabis and alcohol. I've mostly stopped both, maintaining a relatively clean and clutter-free apartment. Story 25. Faith and Jesus. Deleted social media except for Reddit and Facebook for just marketplace usage. Turning phone on night mode, as blue light actually causes anxiety and difficulty sleeping. Story 26. Gym saved my life. I fell in love with bettering myself, realizing I was not what I could be. I loved the idea that I will only get better from here, even if it's just 1%, even if it's just showing up. Acknowledging I was not okay was the best thing I ever did for improving mentally. Story 27. Divorce. While I am still dealing with mental health issues and will likely be for the rest of my life, I am so much happier with where I am in life now than when I was married to that immature cheater. Story 28. For me, walking helps a lot. There was a time when I would walk more than 10 kilometers because I was so stressed, and somehow this would be one way that made me feel a little better. Even now, when I am stressed, I just find myself walking for hours. Again, I was not walking to keep myself fit and healthy, but the walk somehow healed me mentally. Story 29. Transitioning. I am so much happier with my voice, my body, and my life. I feel like I am no longer trapped in my body, and I can finally just be a normal person. My gender identity is no longer at the forefront of my mind. It only becomes relevant when other people are inconsiderate or if I have to correct someone on my pronouns. It is so liberating having my dysphoria almost entirely cured. I love myself in a way I never could before, and it is truly one of the best things I ever did for myself. Story 30. I have started keeping a list on my phone of things I am looking forward to, such as movie releases, book releases, and concerts. It might sound a bit silly, but when I am feeling a bit low, I take a look at the list, and it cheers me up to know that there are good things on the horizon. Story 31. 73 days so far of not drinking and going to therapy to learn how to manage my anxiety. The alcohol was definitely spiking my anxiety. It has made a huge difference in my overall happiness. Story 32. Beyond therapy and medication, a good support system is crucial. You also need to believe that change and growth are even possible. Otherwise, you'll never even remotely be okay. The worst part about my current stage is having to maintain a no-filter speech while still being accountable, recognizing all your self-told lies, and getting wise to yourself, because who are you really fooling? If you lied as much to another person as you do to yourself, you would seriously need some professional help, and there would be no question why you have no support system or close friends. Like myself. I'm not trying to say I know your background or really think anything I have to say is worth much, but I'm trying, and that's good enough some days. Story 33. Exercise, sleeping better, and coming to realize that living to keep others happy all the time is really a bad idea. Be you, and fill your life with people who accept you for who you are rather than running around trying to get others on board. Story 34. I retired from a studio floor job in the film and television industry. My insomnia and heartburn disappeared within a couple of weeks, and now I sleep like a baby for 7 or 8 hours a night, without having to resort to antacids, lorazepam, or gummies. It was not an overly toxic workplace, but between the extremely long hours, the reduced crewing budgets, and the on-set pressure to complete the call sheet, my last 4 years as a department head became less and less enjoyable. Story 35. Aging and learning. Getting the things I thought I wanted only to realize the stress they brought. Releasing, refocusing, and feeling peaceful and grateful for the simple, drama-free life I have.